What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Artful Podcast. It's Matteo here, your host. I'm an artist. In this podcast, I talk about art and I have the pleasure to talk and interview some amazing artists. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and check all the links in the descriptions. It's a lot of fun. Stay tuned for every episode coming out every Monday. And no further ado, guys. Let's go with the studio chat.
Yeah, so this is my studio. I can show you around.
Yeah, give me a little private tour. Oh,
I'm here. Well, I'm sitting in the studio, so I give you a 360 degrees. Or
that's great.
Yeah.
Is that are you studying? Is the studio from the school or?
No, I am studying, but because of COVID, like the whole school, we don't even have access to the studios. Like, yeah, I'm studying at the Royal College of Art in London, and I mean the situation is pretty bad there, and so
you managed to go back.
I'm here in Stockholm,
yeah,
where I grew up and where I was living before, and I have a pretty good studio here. And so I kind of chose to just stay here because there's a lot less lockdown here. So, and I like my community here. So for me, it just wasn't really worth going to London just to be in a lockdown. And yeah.
Yeah. So is that your master? Is it you doing a master or is it just university?
My master. So I'm doing a master in painting at the Royal College of Art. So it's a really good school, but it's
I'm kind of, it's kind of sad that you're not gonna be able to enjoy completely the whole cool environment, is it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's obviously a disappointment, but then it's also like, what can you do? Like,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because it is a master degree, and like we're not really having classes to learn how to paint. It's like you're kind of expected to be at that level already. So I think the education is okay still, because it's like we just have one of our tutorials with the tutors, and then we're writing the dissertations and have lectures, and that can be like okay online. Obviously, it would be nicer to have the art crates like when you would be physically in the studio instead of having to show like pictures. But I think the major loss is just not having studios and like having the whole social part with the other students. So
I'm guessing is everything online and
I'm hoping next year
with your tutors.
Yeah, but next year it's a 2-year course. I'm hoping next year sometime, if this vaccine works, that they will open up and we can get studios. But I don't know, you never know these days, like
yeah, it's true,
with all the mutations and stuff like that, and whether it really works on patients. It's like I don't really expect anything anymore. Like, but yeah, hopefully next year.
We're just living day by day and see what happens at some point. If we get through.
Yeah, exactly. You kind of just.
So in today's episode, we are joined by Cecilia. How you doing, Cecilia? Okay.
I'm good, thank you.
Perfect. You were saying before you are currently in Stockholm, you said?
Yeah, that's right.
Because you had to leave London, obviously because of COVID and
yeah. Or I never actually lived in London now for years.
Oh, you never be able to get actually that?
Yeah, I never was even able to get to London. Yeah.
Oh, that's
no, the school started in like what was it, like August 2020, so it's still
oh, I can
pretty
see
lockdowny. So.
Yeah, it was I think even the worst period of the lockdown, wasn't it? Yeah. So why you don't introduce yourself for the listening, so you can just explain what you do and who you are.
Sure. All right. So I'm Cecilia Klemensson, or Cecilia Ulfsdotter on Instagram. So my full name is like Cecilia Ulfsdotter Klemensson, but you can call me whatever you want. You don't have to say all those names. And yeah, so I grew up here in Stockholm, but I lived in Perth in Australia for 5 years. Okay. There I did my Bachelor of Fine Art, and yeah, and then I came back to Europe thinking I would want to do my master here. Did a lot of like random stuff in Stockholm for a long time, and then I did a residence in Leipzig, like towards the end of 2019, and there I applied to go to Royal College of Art in London, and I felt like it's time to do my master.
Nice.
And I got in, and that was super exciting. And then COVID came.
Yeah.
So.
I can imagine, even because the Royal School, the Royal College is like a really good school, and unfortunately you have to do it online. And for now, I mean, like you might be gonna be able to go back next year, but kind of sucks, isn't it?
Yeah, it does suck.
And
I mean, it's been ranked like the best in the world. But then again, everything is subjective, and it's also because it is in London. It also means that we don't have access to studios. And
and I'll obviously like the question that I do nowadays, and how do you cope with lockdown? And I mean, like with your practice. So were you able to work anyway, or is like you find it difficult because obviously like, you don't have the big studio that you usually might have? How did you cope with the whole situation?
For me, I've been quite lucky in that sense. So we never really had a proper lockdown in Stockholm or Sweden. It's just been like restrictions. So I've always had access to my studio, and I'm sitting in this like sort of shared studio room where I'm renting one of the corners. But at the moment, it's been agreed that I can take like pretty much most of the walls because I have this show. So, and most of the time I am alone in this room. So I'm actually like this is the biggest studio I've ever had. It's crazy how big the studio is for the money that I'm paying. But every now and then there comes someone in, and like one of the like sort of flex. We have like fix and flex members. In this thing. So I'm a fixed member, which means I'm renting a desk, and like I'm around to sort of mark my territory or whatever. And the flex well, anyway, the flex members, they can come in, and they don't get a space, but they can still come in and work. And it's kind of nice to have, actually, because it has still been like lonely. Like I'm not making plans with friends as much as I would have if it wasn't lockdown. So my studio has also been like my social lives, and it's nice to have like these regular people that I know now that comes in and work next to me every now and then. Yeah,
that's really good, because you don't kind of realize, obviously, because when you're in school and when you're young, you have those people that have your same interest, and you can talk to them and stuff like that. But when you grow up and you grow up with those creative people, and then all of a sudden you're missing that part. It's really important for like artists to be stimulated by other people and other creative people to to just think and make ideas. And it's literally one of the reasons why I started this, because I couldn't talk to anyone. I always wanted to, because I'm really into the podcast thing. I listen to podcasts all the time. And I always wanted to start one, and obviously because of lockdown, I had all the time to learn how to do one, and I was like, that's the perfect occasion for me to talk to artists that I might never meet in real life. And so it's been great. It's been super fun, and it's really important because it's stimulate your mind to think creatively, which you don't really do with like other people that are not into art and not into that kind of mindset. So it's really important if you have like those people, they come and go into the studio, and new people, you meet new people and stuff like that. So I completely understand what you mean by that. It's really good. So
sorry,
you were saying sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that's a really good initiative. Like I really admire you, and so smart.
Yeah, it's obviously like it will get better as I do more and more, but it's been really fun. Sometimes obviously like at the beginning especially it was kind of like awkward and like really strange to talk to into a mic and thinking that somebody else will like listen to it, and it's kind of weird concept because you're like, why they should listen to me? But I'm just gonna keep doing it and see what happens.
Exactly. publishing them until someone doing it.
Yeah, it's more for me, to be honest, than anything else, but yeah.
No, I'm sure the more you do it, you will just perfect it, learn by doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's like something that you realize as well, like coming out of art school, it's like how much you're dependent as an artist to be around other artists. And it might sound like super snobby, being like, oh, I only want to hang out with other artists. It's like, no, it's not like that. It's okay. It's good to have other friends too. But it is really like, it's such a hard work to do anyway, so you need the support by people, I think, that is also artists, both like emotionally to like sort of understand the struggles of being an artist, but also because you get so many like gigs and like contacts and stuff through art.
You never know.
And so yeah, and that was quite hard when I moved back to Stockholm. Then suddenly I had like no artist networks, and it took quite a while to sort of build that up again. But now that I have this shared studio, it's really helped me to sort of get back into a network. So I think like shared studios and studio collectives is really good, especially if you're an artist not living in the city where you might have gone to school and something, and you have to sort of start again. So yeah.
Let's talk about your practice, because are you only a painter? Because the only thing I could manage to see was painting, right?
Yeah, I do life drawing as well. So yeah, I guess I'm mostly known for my painting, but yeah, I'm pretty two-dimensional. So
I'm the same. Completely.
I did some like performance work and like video work on my bachelor, and I quite enjoyed it. But then I kind of enjoyed painting more, I guess, or it's just something that I felt like I have so much. Like just painting itself is just so much. For me, always something more to discover, even within my very niche technique. I always find more and new things like to develop it. So for as long as like I feel like I can push it further, I think I will keep painting.
Yeah. It's what does it attract you from in like about paintings, that it's the like that they push you to do more painting than not try sculpture or not try anything else than painting and drawings? What does it really attract you about painting?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, it's kind of like what I said before. Like I feel like just because like even if you limit, like for me, I limit myself to only 4 colors, and even within this dimension of 4 colors, is so much. You can build so many other colors on those colors, and whichever technique you do in paintings is always something like more to develop within that. Like, of course, you can do that in every field, but I feel for painting, for me, it's the most. Or in my opinion, probably the most dynamic medium, in that it's just no limit in the amount of combinations you can do, even with a limited amount of colors. Or like, whereas I think it comes down to the fact that I really like color and the color theory, and how you can sort of build up and build down a painting, and how something so two-dimensional can look so lively and so fleshy, and the sort of contradictions in that. So
yeah, it sounds interesting. For example, for me, because I do portrait as well as you do, and when I paint or when I draw, it's intimacy that I get with the subject, because something that you cannot really explain, but it's more you kind of like understand the subject, and what if you especially if you know the portrait, the person that you doing portrait of, it's you get to another level, like the intimacy between you and the artwork. It's really intimate, which I try other things like printmaking and sculpture, like really little, but I really like that with painting and drawings I get that intimacy with the artwork, because it's just me and the artwork, and there's only like a brush or a pen between me and them, and it's because the relationship between me and the artwork, I really like that, for example. You say you're using like a limited palette for your painting.
Yeah.
How did you always do that, or is something that you end up using like recently?
No, it's kind of like leaned towards that throughout the years. It's like I kept realizing that the more I limit myself, the better it gets.
Yeah.
And then you can sort of so if you say like you only have 4 colors, how much can I do with these 4 colors, right? Because otherwise I've found like if it's overwork, it quite often looks a bit plasticky, and like if you allow yourself all colors, you can also kind of turn into mod. So but I have this sort of technique that's kind of been perfected and sort of developed over the years. So I apply one color at a time, and then I let that color dry completely before I add the next color. And with my last painting there, it's only been like 1 layer of each color, like those big ones with the men. Before I would maybe do 16 layers, but I would still always do the layers separately. So it's kind of like breaking down what painting is made of to then build it up again. So it's kind of like deconstructing like what the painting of skin is made of, and I'm quite interested in sort of what the world of painting, or what things are made of, kind of. So it's almost a little bit metaphor, like metaphysical, this whole thing. But like looking at them from afar, they can look, some of mine could look like super hyper realistic, but when you realize how simply the whole process,
it's layer on layer,
it's been made, I found that quite interesting. And how you don't actually have to mix the colors with each other. It's enough just to like layer them on top of each other, and when you look at it closely, they're actually like separated, but the eye envisions it as they are sort of blended. And that's so I guess
it is really interesting, because usually that's how I work, for example, and I think that's the majority of people, they work with paint. They kind of try to get to the last stage in the mixing process, and not building layer on layer on layer as you do, which is really interesting. And am I gonna try one day try to steal your technique? It sounds really fun, and I guess it's basically like building what you do on the palette but on the canvas straight. And it's really interesting that you do that. And it's
kind of inspired by, like, with silkscreen printing, you kind of do the same thing, like
it's true.
Manually. Like you just add, you're very limited in colors, and you just add them one by one, and then somehow it still like turns out in this process. And I think under just normal printer on a computer, I guess a normal printer sort of works similarly as well. Well, I don't know exactly, but
yeah, it's true. And saying so, like your practice changed through the year quite a lot, or is it just basically an evolution of how you started and how you're now?
Kind of been an evolution of the same thing, but the result has changed quite a lot, and the sort of numbers of colors that I'm allowed to use. So basically just restricted myself more and more. So, but still the result has become more interesting. So like before I could have maybe 6 colors, and then I restricted that to only 4 colors. And before I could do up to like 16 layers, and now I only do like 4 layers. And different ways to, and like also like now the underline drawing also is quite visible, and I really like the underline drawings on mine because they're sort of drawn. And when I do that, I do it more like a map, so I sort of circle the corruption of the body, like the way that a map circles the corruption.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. I saw the last series that you done.
Yeah, thanks.
Actually, yeah.
So before I have done so many layers that sort of drawing kind of disappears, and then this time I was like, no, now I'm gonna really work with it, and that will return and sort of let myself leave parts unfinished, which is one of the things like the teacher has been saying. And it's like I can maybe like render it completely in some parts, but like leave it unfinished in other parts. You sort of reveal the whole process. The whole like process is so like this should also somehow be like revealed in the results. That was at least my feedback from the teachers, and I kind of took that on because I thought it kind of makes sense. So because in my last show, like I would document the process and like put it on my Instagram, like stories, highlights, and I would show everyone the process. And yeah, and then she said, it's like, and then she just said this thing, like, if the process is so important, why don't you just reveal it in results? And I was like, yeah, well, maybe that is some point.
Yeah, that sounds good. Do you work from photo, or is you try to get sitting from real people?
I do work from photo, but even just the photograph takes quite a long time. So I have sittings with friends and like acquaintances, and then I take like images from images from like news in fashion advertising. So then I pick one for like Kate Moss, for example, and then I like work with the model until the pose is exactly the same. And also always like switch the gender. So like I have men posing like women and women posing like men, and or sometimes the trans women.
Yeah, I saw that on your Instagram. Again, the last series that you've done. It's really interesting, and I was really attracted by the whole process, and especially like why did you decide to do that? It was just like a challenge that you wanted to.
Yeah, well, that was like I've been doing it for quite a while, and I mean it's all about sort of challenging gender norms, trying to sort of transgress gender, and also sort of maybe just posing the question like what happens when you see a male body posing in these ways that we otherwise only used to see women pose up in this sort of pose as the other, as the sort of the object of male gaze desire. And like also I've been like looking, like when you look through these like nudes, and like there's male nudes in fashion advertising too, but when you look through this archive of like all the nudes in fashion advertising, you see certain like patterns. Like usually the women are passive somehow, whereas the men are active somehow. So the men, they can have the crouch forward and when the arm elbows up, which is like a very active and seductive pose, whereas women is always like a hand here or an arm here or something a little bit to the
like
side.
Hiding.
Something even though they're completely naked is always something that indicates some kind of shyness, and this is the whole like passive part that we need to put on women. So it's like this gender stereotypes are there even when it's just a naked body. Like you don't even need the makeup and the heels and stuff. I kind of like wanted to see what happens when you subvert that. Like now people might react to it, but if we ever come to some kind of like utopian world where there are no gender cliches anymore, maybe no one will react to it. But like the way it is now, I think people do look at it and I think it's like something odd, and that's kind of is that sort of conversation that I want to like ignite in people, like what happens in them when they see men posing like women.
I like that you want to for people to, as you said, engage the conversation of what you're painting and what you're representing with your artwork, and that's what I'm really interested in as well. One of my series that took me longer than anything else that I've done was about immigrants, and it was literally like a close-up portrait of these immigrants that most of them I know obviously because I'm one of them. So you make friends from other countries, like you're more keen to make friends from every other country than the country that you're in for some reason.
But it happens here as well.
Yeah, and I was not suggesting anything for the audience to get to the point that they were like, oh, those are immigrants. So it was really interesting for me to see the reaction when I was revealing them that they were immigrants, and they were like, oh right, that's why this and that's why that. And that's basically like one of my mission as an artist, and try to make people think and just try to create a conversation about something that I'm interested in too, which I think is really important, as as you're doing it.
Yeah.
And especially like I have like a background as a graphic design for advertising. Because I did I did 5 years in Italy as a graphic design for the advertising and marketing and stuff like that. And there is so many stereotypes that we play along, and it's really important for like people like you to challenge those and make people like shockingly engaging with the conversation. And it's really important. It's really good. I really liked it. In a positive way. I was attracted when I was scrolling through Instagram, when I decided to like obviously like follow you and start like talking to you. It was because of that, because I saw those paintings and were like positively, because I'm obviously I'm for it. I was attracted by those paintings and were like, those are really interesting, and I want to talk about. I want to talk to the artist about this because it sounds really good, and it is really good.
Yeah, and I like the idea that maybe someone might be confused, being like, someone that might not be attracted to male bodies before, when you see them posing in that way, might there be something that sort of confuses you or unites you, and all these things that I think
that you've tried to challenge. Yeah, that's really interesting.
And my tutor said something quite interesting on that note, that like so the purpose of art is not to tell people what to think, it's just to tell people to think. So that's sort of a little bit like the difference between sort of the advertising world and the art world. It's like with advertising, the message always has to be very clear, like these toothbrush will make your teeth whiter, and there's no question about it. And like, whereas with art, it's more like you want to start and ignite like sort of conversation. So that's why it is actually quite a selfless medium and or a world to be in, and it's why I like it, I suppose.
Yeah, I completely agree. Is something that you try to do as an artist all the time, and especially if you don't do it as I don't know, I don't want to, obviously everyone is free to do whatever they want with their art, but if you don't use art as a commercial only, so basically like to make money out of it, it's something that most of artists do, try to challenge ideas and try to make people think. And I think that's really what the role in our society is, like as an artist, is try to challenge stuff, try to make think, try to change maybe something. And it's something that you've definitely tried to do successfully, because those paintings are really good. And I especially for the size that I imagine seeing like in real life, as I can think only if you get into a gallery, if you enter a gallery and you see those big paintings that are like that, it's just, they attract your eyes for sure. So, is that the size of the painting something that you think about before you start painting? Then maybe bigger?
Yeah, it is actually. I think almost everything is quite thought out in this, but like I try to make it like slightly bigger than real life, so it's a little bit adding to the whole, maybe a little bit uncanny feeling that you might get from it, like a little bit spooky. So like when you hold your hand next to it and you see that the hand might be like
just a bit bigger,
and then but because is only a little bit, you don't really see it until you like compare it to yourself. Like sometimes the hand might be like twice as big, but when you look at it, like it looks like that could actually be like real life size. But then it's also obviously to sort of get the whole details and the fleshiness, like the need to be bigger, because I want to get like all of the hair and beauty spots, stretch marks, and I'm really interested in the surface of the skin, really. So to properly sort of examine that and flesh that out, they need to be a little bit bigger than real life size. So
then why you're drawn to this subject of like social challenging, is there something that you want to do always with your art, or sometimes you just want draw whatever, or you're not interested on drawing or painting just a normal person without a social message behind, or it's something that you really want to, or for you to be able to paint, or for you to be able interesting in to do the artwork? Or is it sometimes you just literally like want to paint and just a person? Or
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, I do like painting either way, with or without the political context, and I particularly like painting people.
Yeah.
When I paint people, I want it to be as honest as possible. So I want to like paint all the pimples and all of that, because it just makes it more interesting for me. So that's where it starts from. So I guess it kind of starts from quite a selfish point, but it's also like we had seen like enough reclining nudes of women. So for me, it's more interesting to like paint men, because it's feel like it has been as much done before. If it would have been the other way around, I might have been more interested in painting women. It's also like that, like when you've been working in a field for long enough, it's like you want something new. And especially so it is also like me painting what I want to paint, but then I also have like a political message behind it. So
something that I ask people, especially recently, because of lockdown, how do you stay motivated to paint and to work? Because it can be really challenging, especially nowadays, because galleries are closed and you cannot exhibit, and you cannot meet people, especially for us that we do portrait. How do you stay inspired? How do you stay motivated?
Well, I think partly the painting is also what keeps me sane in the whole thing, but it's like I also have like quite a lot of pressure. Like I have a solo exhibition now, 15th of May, and then for the school I have all these like deadlines. So it's now I also have to pair it with writing my dissertation. But if it wasn't for that, I would probably still be painting like every day, or at least every weekday. So I mean, at the moment it's both because I enjoy it, but also because I have to actually. So and with RCA like that, the work in progress show had to be online, but it didn't stop me from wanting to make good paintings. We still had to like submit photos of your work. The solo show in April, I don't think it will be on it's at a small gallery, so it's not going to be online, but the galleries are still open here, so it's not going to be cancelled. I just hope that it's not going to be to a point where you can't have a vernissage. That would be sad, but then again, it's not the end of the world.
It is. It can be really stressful for like here we got like really bad lockdown, and even before, like a few months ago, it was really strict, and galleries they would not be able to open at all. And it was like sometimes you just ask why am I doing this right now, because I cannot.
You're in London, right? Or?
I'm in Bristol, which is like two hours to London. So we got to the point that we were like tier 3, so it was like really bad at some point. So it was I think we're still in tier 3. It's been so long. I lost what we're doing. But yeah.
Are your schools still closed and all that, or?
Sorry?
Are the schools for the youngest children still closed?
I think they just closed again a few weeks ago. So so we still. I think the only thing open now is the essential like supermarkets and stuff like that. So for sure,
it's hard to understand this whole.
Sorry.
And I was a correspondent on the Swedish news the other day was saying that so far, like the children in the UK has had like 6 months or something that like actually being in school.
Yeah. They've been closed for the whole year basically, and they tried to open for a bit, and it wasn't worth it. But what can you do? Like, just follow the instruction. I was gonna ask, what what big influence that you have? As like, did you look up to artists, or are you interested into looking up to artists, or you just do your work?
Mostly, I think I just kind of do my work. But artists that has sort of inspired me are my first big inspiration is probably Jenny Saville. Like she makes massive paintings of quite like fleshy bodies, and so I think I get quite a lot of inspiration from like 90s London painters, like when the first era of trying to paint fleshy kind of started.
Yeah, that's cool. I don't want to take too much time of your day, Cecilia, and that was really great. Thank you very much to be part of the podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
I give the opportunity to people to plug any social media website that you have, so they can go and contact you and see your work. In the description, I will put all the links and all the website that you have. So if they wanna see your work.
Okay. So if you wanna follow me, I am Cecilia lowercase Ulfsdotter on Instagram, and my website is CECILIAKLEMENTSSON.com.
That's perfect. Wonderful. That's great. Thank you very much, Cecilia, again.
Thank you.
And then have a lovely day. Thank you.
Yep. You too.